वागीशाद्याः सुमनसः सद्वार्थानामुपक्रमे यं नत्वा कृतकृत्याः स्युः तं नमामि गजाननं पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितं पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ददामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् योगिनं विश्वनाथाख्यम् अस्मत्तातस्वरूपिणम् आत्मलाभात् परं लाभं वक्तारं न कदाचन गीतार्थग्रन्थकर्तारं श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहं योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मे वाचं धृतिं बुद्धिं प्रचोदयात् ॐ नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च वो नमः। Om. Friends, we are going to be doing the Gita regimen number 17. We are in chapter 3. We have already done shloka 9 to 16 one round. This is actually the second round, and we are going to, in this session, we are going to take up the two most profound shlokas, one of the two most profound shlokas of Gita, and that is number 17 and 18. But in order to go to it, we have to set up the background. So I am going to trace back from shloka number 8 onwards. 8 says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayosya karmanah. You have to do your regulated prescribed action. Niyatam karma kuru karmajyayosya karmanah. Action is better than inaction always. Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddheda karmanah. Even the journey of life will not be complete if you do not do action. Simply it will not happen. Therefore, niyatam kuru karma. You have to do your prescribed action. How to do the action? In what manner one has to do the action? That is where shloka number 9 starts. Yajñārthāt karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. We have seen all these shlokas from 9 up to 16, but today we are going to aim towards 17 and 18. So I am filling up the gaps that I left the other day, and also leading on up to number 17 and 18. Yajñārthāt karmanaha anyatra lokaha ayam karma bandhanaha. Anything done other than the yajna, anything done not the yajna way, that will bind you to this world. For example, you know, there are many kinds of yajnas that we are familiar with. So I will take the very simple yajna, Ayushya Homa. All of us must be having, probably at one time or other, an experience of an Ayushya Homa. A homa, a yajna, a ritual that is done by the Pandits for the purpose of the longevity of the person concerned. So several priests sit together and do the mantras. Yo Brahma Brahmana Ujjagara Praneshira Kritivasa Apinaki. The mantra, it goes on. They have several mantras like this, and then they will say Swaha, and they will offer into the fire whatever they have to offer. There are certain prescribed rituals. This is the Ayushya Homa. Now, you are doing it for a particular purpose. What is the purpose? You are doing it by proxy anyway. But the priest is doing it for you. Now the priest is doing it the Aishya Homa for you, but the priest actually is not doing it for his longevity. He is doing it for the Yajamana's longevity, namely your longevity. For that you are going to pay him some dakshina so that you will appropriate all the benefits out of that yajna. Now, but the priest is doing it very sincerely for your benefit. So in some sense, priest is not doing it selfishly, but in some sense he is doing it selfishly because he gets the dakshina out of it. So you see, in your case, certainly it is not yajna arthat. You are not doing unselfishly. Yajna means unselfish, dedicated action, not for one's own purpose. Then that is called yajna. So what you are doing, yajna is not the yajna of the Gita type. The priest at least is doing part of it purely as a yajna. You see the nuances here. So everything has to be done for loka sangraha, for the purpose of another or for the good of the world. Then that becomes a yajna. Dasharatha, King Dasharatha of the Ramayana, did the Putrakameshti yajna, big yajna with all sorts of, but that was specifically for a purpose of getting an offspring. So that is not the yajna of the Gita type, though it is called Putrakameshti yajna, but not the Bhagavad Gita purpose. Anyway, let us proceed. Yajna. Yajna means sacrifice. Yajna means sacrifice. The Sanskrit, this is a technical word. All these Sanskrit words have got their English equivalent. But once upon a time, some Englishmen who understood Sanskrit translated it. And then the same translation perhaps, or similar translations continued. Who gave the meaning sacrifice to yajna? It's very interesting. Probably it was Maxwell in the early 19th century or end of the 18th century. The Sanskrit meaning of yajna is, one meaning is Vishnu, another meaning is also sacrifice. Yaji, to sacrifice. Yaji is a verb. Every Sanskrit word comes from a verbal root. Here yaji is the root. Yaja means sacrifice, yaja. But remember, yaja, keep repeating yaja. It becomes jaya. You see, that is how jaya came. Tena bhunjita, says Ishavasya Upanishad. By sacrificing, enjoy by sacrificing. So sacrifice has been ordained for us. Everything has been ordained for us as a yajna. But when I talk about this the Gita says everything must be done as a yajna. We are going to talk more elaborately about it in the 4th chapter. But here itself, when I talk to my students, they naturally ask, Sir, in a class, I cannot be unselfish. I have to be selfish. I have to be one up. I have to study. I have to get more marks than everybody else here. So I have to be selfish. So how do you think that I can be doing my action, studying for the examination and doing my studies unselfishly? How is it possible? And what do you mean by dedicated action? Unselfish, dedicated action. And this question naturally arises in the mind of every student that I have met with. And I tell them the following. Usually these students have come and are studying in colleges. That is where I teach. And Pilani was my where I was teaching. Students have come from far off places all over India. And so it is very easy to give them the proper analogy in their own context. So I tell my student, you have a mother at home I mean, where are you coming from? From Madras, he says, say Chennai. Now, he has come all the way from Chennai to Pilani to study. So, you have a mother at home. What did your mother tell you when you left for college? To study well, to get good marks and come first as high as possible, get a rank as high as possible and do well. And this is what she advised me. So that's it. Your mother is your deity of dedication. What is dedication? Dedication means you take pains. You voluntarily accept, willingly undertake a painful process for the satisfaction of your God of dedication. Here your God of dedication is your mother at home. She has told you to study well. She has told you not to waste time. And of course, for everything my student says, yes sir, that is what exactly my mother told me. So you see, so do everything for the satisfaction of your mother. Do something because your mother told you to do it. Do not do something because your mother told you not to do something. Don't waste your time. Don't loiter in the bazaar. Your mother has told you. That is exactly the thing. So do not do anything which your God of dedication will not want you to do. Do everything which your God of dedication would want you to do. This is the Swadhyaya Yajna. Yajna for study. And once you start doing this, you know what will happen? An alchemy will happen within the mind, which changes the mind flow. You see, the moment you think of joining a group of friends purely for chatting purposes and spending your time, and immediately this dedication, having dedicated all your actions to your mother, that will tell you, that will change your mind, that will tell you, do not do this, do not waste your time, like that. So that is how this yajna, this dedication helps. In fact, in olden times, when before independence, for all the political leaders, all the political workers, all of them did a dedicated sacrifice for Bharat Mata. Bharat Mata was the god of dedication for all of them. They willingly undertook painful process for the sake of the Bharat Mata, their god of dedication. I was discussing this sometime in one of my lectures in the United States to elders. There were certainly there were many parents sitting there, Indian residents, but living in the United States and carrying on their career. Now, so we were talking about yajna being unselfish, dedicated action. Everything has to be done by unselfishly. That's what I was trying to say. And now one parent asked me, sir, all right, what you say is all right, unselfish, dedicated action theoretically seems to be all right. But now he gives me an actual situation. A son or daughter living along with him in the United States, say, in a foreign country. He does not come up to the mark of the parent. There are things which the parent would like to pull him up. But if the parent tries to pull her up, there is a protest. You are not giving me independence, you are not treating me like a son, you are treating like that. So the parent feels guilty, but at the same time parent knows that the way the son or daughter is moving along is not right. He has to pull him up. So the question, this is the question given to me. Sir, am I supposed to pull up my son or daughter, or is that an unselfish action? If I have to do it as an unselfish action, should I not pull them up? Because what should I do? What is the correct thing? There is a great discussion about this responsibility of the parent in pulling up a son or a daughter. The point here is, You see, yajna means niyatam kuru karmatvam, and the next sloka comes yajnartha. First of all, prescribed duties you have to do. Do it as a yajna. What is the prescribed duty of a parent? Prescribed duty of a parent is to put the son or daughter in the right path. That is a duty. You cannot fail in your duty. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. So we have to understand the nuances of all these things. You have to do the prescribed duty, but do the prescribed duty without expecting any return. That is called unselfish action. Without expecting any return means, that is, when you do something to your son or daughter, do not expect the son or daughter to recompense you at the proper time after when he or she is able to make a living for himself or herself. So yajna, that is yajna. Yajna is unselfish, dedicated action without expectation of any fruits thereof. Of course, yajnarthat also means Vishnuarthat. Vishnuarthat, yajna means Vishnu. So, for the sake of God, as a dedication to God, do everything as a dedication to God. This is also one interpretation. But remember, it has to be done well. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. Shloka number 9. Mukta sangas samachara. Samachara means do it efficiently. You cannot do it indifferently. And again, yajna is such a profound word. Later in the 9th chapter, the Lord says, Aham sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhureva cha. I am the Lord of all yajnas. I am the receiver of all what is offered in the yajna. So yajna has that kind of profound connotation, you see. Anyway, this is the meaning of yajna. As we go along, we will get more and more about this. So that Saha Yajna Prajastištva, Shloka number 10, says Brahma created even at that time, along with yajna, all the people. And then Shloka number 11 says, because I have told you all the meaning, I am going fast now. Devan bhavayata nena te deva bhavayantu bha parasparam bhavayantaha sheyah paramo vapsyate. Devan, the divines, they take the offerings that you give them. Now you see, we are in the traditional interpretation of this. That is, the Devaloka and Bhuloka has a kind of a give and take. The Bhuloka, the people here, offer in the yajnas certain things for the divine through the fire. Fire, you know, is the carrier. Is the carrier of everything that is offered to the divines. So the divines take that and they return it for you. So mutual, there is a mutual give and take. How do they return it? By rains and things like that. That will come in the next few slokas. Ishtan bhogan hivo deva. You see, this give and take, when you offer something and the divines take it and the divines return it, even if you don't believe in the divines, planting of trees. Somebody has planted that tree, coconut tree, long ago, for you to enjoy it today. Remember, man enjoys today the fruits of somebody's yajna. Somebody else has offered it without expecting anything for himself. Is it? So this is the fundamental principle in planting of trees. You all know that. So number 12. Ishtan bhogan hivo devan dasyante yajna bhavitaha. The devas are satisfied and they return it to you. But how are they satisfied? That is the mantra shakti. Mantra shakti. You see, you are reciting certain mantras. Mantras have a great effect. Mantra, the mantra shakti is getting debilitated as years pass on because of the Kali age. But in olden times, the mantra shakti was really great. Vishwamitra, after all his tapas, when Trishanku had gone to the heavens and Indra turned him back and Trishanku was falling down, Vishwamitra, sitting here, standing here, says, Tishta Tishta. Tishta Tishta means stand there, and thereby there was a Trishanku Loka, an in-between Loka, like that. So that is possible. So Mantra Shakti. So in fact, take Hinduism, take any school of Hinduism, whether it is ISKCON, whether it is yoga school, whether it is the Bengal school, whatever, all sorts of, there are various subdivisions in Hindu religion, theology, but all of them believe in Mantra Shakti. Everybody has a mantra. Maybe the mantras differ from school to school, person to person, but everybody believes in mantra. Hinduism, the fundamental thread in Hinduism is Mantra Shakti. So that is why Ishtan Bhogan Hivo Deva Dasyante Yajna, they are propitiated by Yajna, and therefore they give you back. And if you don't give it back to them, you are only a thief. Says number 12. Yajnashishta Shinas Santo. Number 13. Yajnashishta Shinas Santo Muchyante Sarvakil Bishai. Ashinaha, eating, consuming, experiencing. You have to consume only those things which are the remnants of the yajna. You see, the bhunjate ete tvagam papa ye pachanchatma karana. He who cooks for himself, he who consumes things for himself without offering it to the concerned people, taildattana pradayayiddu, he is only eating. Bhunjate te tvagam papa, he is eating sin. Agam papa, papaha agam bhunjate. That is why the ordinary householder has been prescribed that he must do 5 yajnas every day, because you see, in order to live we have to cook food, and in the process of cooking we are making 5 sins. What are the 5 sins we are making? Cutting or crushing, grinding, burning or heating, washing, sweeping. All these things are, creating some kind of havoc to some kind of creatures or organisms. So there are 5 things which are our instruments for doing all this: the pestle, the grinder, the oven, the water pot, washing, and the broom. Kandani, Peshani, Chulli, Udakumbi, Chamarjani. It is listed. Kandani, pestle. Peshani, grinder. Chulli, oven. Udakumbi, water pot. Chamarjani, broom. Therefore, Panchasuna Grihastasya Tabhiswargam na Vindati. These are 5 sins that a householder makes every day. By making these sins alone, he will not go to Swarga. He has to make amends. Therefore, he has to do 5 yajnas every day. What are the 5 yajnas? To the gods, to the pitris, to other humans, to creatures, and to the rishis. Deva yajna, pitri yajna, bhuta yajna, manushya yajna, and brahma yajna. These are the pancha yajnas, 5 yajnas that we have to do in order to make amends for the 5 sins that we are making every day for our sustenance. So, but these yajnas still have to be done as selfless, dedicated action. Annat bhavanti bhutani. So that from Parjanyat Anna Sambhavaha, from the food life emanates, so creatures arise, and from that food comes from rains, and the rain comes from the yajna, and the yajna is karma samudbhavaha. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, Annat अन्नाद् भूतानि जायन्ते जातान्यन्नेन वर्धन्ते अद्यते इति च भूतानि तस्मादन्नं तदुच्यते इति. You see, food is eaten by creatures, but finally the creatures also become food after their death and going into the soil. That you see, it is Prakriti. So the food is consumed, food itself is a consumer. Therefore it says Adyate Atticha Bhutani. It is eaten and it also eats. Therefore Asmad Annam Taduchate. Therefore food is called Annam. This is from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Anyway, we have seen the shloka 14 and 15 very elaborately the other day. Karma Brahmotbhavam Vidhi. That karma comes from Brahma, Brahma comes from the Akshara, Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma. Everything is centered in Brahman. That yajna itself is located in Brahman. Located means anchored. Evam pravartitam chakram. So it is an ecology, cosmic ecology that goes on. Nanu vartayati. Whoever does not follow this, Hagayur Indriyarama Mogam Partha Sajiviti. He wastes his life. He is only addicted to his senses. Indriyaramaha. Indriyaramaha means one who revels in his senses. What is the opposite? The opposite is one who does not revel in his senses. One who revels in the self. Atmai. That is the man. So, the shlokas slowly develop you, though it begins from an ordinary give and take relation between the divine world and the human world, and as if it is a kind of a something offering and something taken from them, like that. But you see, karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudyamam. Finally, he has ended up with the Brahman, and therefore living in Brahman is the ultimate aim. And he is going to describe to you, Krishna is describing to you the person, the great person, saint, who has gone up to that stage of living in Brahman by doing all these yajnas, perhaps. That is shloka number 17, and 18 is going to tell you something else. So shloka number 17 I am taking now, and we will spend quite some time on this. Shloka number 17. It should be highlighted in the entire Gita as an important shloka. 5-star shloka. Yastvatmaratireva syati atmatriptascha manavaham tade atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. Yastu atmaratihi eva syat atmatriptaha cha manavaha atmani eva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. Tasya karyam na vidyate. He does not have to do anything. For him there is no work to be done. Tasya karyam na vidyate. What is the meaning of this? Yastu atmaratireva syat. Whoever takes delight, rati means delight. Atmaratihi, delight in the self, capital self. Delight in the self. Yastu atmaratireva syat. Atmatriptascha manavaha. Manavaha means person. Person who is totally satisfied in the self, takes delight in the self, satisfied in the self, and atmanyeva cha santushtaha, has a fulfillment, contentment, contented fulfillment in the self. Atmani eva santushtaha. For such a person, there is nothing to be done. Kya baat hai? What is the meaning of this? After all this, we were talking about yajna, he was talking about this. Suddenly Krishna takes you up to a different level of talking and speaking. Yastvat marati revasyat. Beautiful shloka. So let us try to understand this. See, in Tamil, the Alvar, the Nammalvar, the greatest Alvar among the 12 Alvars of the Vaishnava canon. In his work, he says, Thinnum Vetrilayum, Unnum Shorum, Parugum Neerum, Ellam Kannane. All this is Krishna, Lord Krishna. What is that? The beetle leaf that I consume. Thinnum Vetrilayum, Unnum Shorum, the food that I eat. The food that I eat. Parugum Neerum, the water that I drink. Three things. The beetle leaf, which is usually taken at the end of the meal. Beetle leaf, the food, meal, and the water. Now, each one gives a different type of response. The beetle leaf is a kind of a luxury item. It's a pleasure. It's an object of enjoyment. Bhogya, rati. So there are three things here. Yastvatma rati revasyat atmatriptascha manavaha rati tripti atmanyevacha santushtaha santushti. Rati, tripti, santushti. Rati is delight, tripti is satisfaction, santushti is contented fulfillment. So now, just see. Yes. So, this bhogya, whatever is just pleasurable, luxurious, is an object of enjoyment, like Srak Chandana Vanita Dishu. The commentators are very, they comment on these things very elaborately. Srak Chandana Vanita Dishu. The Brahmin, when after he eats, he anoints himself with sandalwood. Vanitadishu, sexual enjoyment is a kind of luxury, an object of enjoyment. That is rati. Tripti, dharaka. So that one is bhogya. Bhogya means pleasure, luxury. Dharaka, protecting. You need it. You need it for your living. Tripti. Manogya annapanadishu. Whatever we eat, something which we want. Annapana, pana, drinking, anna. So santushti, that is tripti, that is the satisfaction. Santushti means poshaka. So there are three things: bhogya, dharaka, poshaka. Bhogya is pleasure, what is to be pleasure, enjoyed as a pleasure. Dharaka means necessity for living, protection. Poshaka means nourishing contentment. So, Pashuputra Hiranya Adilabhene Rogadya Abhavene, possessing cows, having sons and daughters, Hiranyadi, wealth, coins, Labhene, Rogadya Abhavene, absence of disease. That's a great thing, great satisfaction. So, there are three things here. This kind of enlightened person, he does not care for bhogya, he does not care for dharaka, he does not care for poshaka. Neither a nourishing type of thing, neither a protecting type of thing, neither for a pleasure. Nothing excites him. He is totally satisfied, contented, fulfilled, taking delight in the self. I have told you earlier in another context, in our Sanatana Dharma series, the story of Jadabharata and how he lived. So, such a person, Atmaratihi, Atmatriptihi, Atmasantushtaha, Tasya Karyam Navidyate. What does he have to do? Anything there? You see? He does not need the pleasure of material objects. He does not see anything, hear anything, cognize anything. He disports in the self. He has his enjoyment in the self alone. In fact, don't think Krishna is saying this all by himself. he goes back to Mundakopanishad. The Mundakopanishad has the same statement. Prano yes sarvabhuteir vibhati vijanan vidwan bhavate nativadi atmakridam atmaratihi kriyavan yesha brahmavidam varishtaha. This is the greatest among all knowers of Brahman. That is what the Mundakopanishad says. The one who lives like this, that is, they know that there is nothing in all these material things, so he delights in the self, he is totally contented in the self. Such a fellow, such a person is Brahmavidam Varishtaha, says Mundakopanishad. So let us link it with the next sloka. 17 and 18 are linked up. The next sloka says, Naivatasya kriten arthaham na kritenega kaschanam na chasya sarvabhuteshu kaschidartha vyapashrayagam. It's a difficult sloka, but it is also a 5-star sloka. It is a difficult sloka, so understand it slowly. Just now we said, the one who delights in the self, who is totally contented in the self, for him there is nothing more to be done. It is being explained now. Why? Naivatasya kritena arthaha. For him who rejoices in the self, tasya, for that person, naiva kritena arthaha. Naiva kritena arthaha. He has nothing to do, nothing to gain from anything done. Na eva kritena artha. Artha means object, purpose, objective. Right? Kritena means what has been done. Kritena arthaha na eva. So, nothing at all to gain from the work done. Naiva tasya kritena arthaha na kritena iha kaschana na akritena iha kaschana. Iha in this world, akritena by not doing. So, kritena means work done. Akritena means work undone, no work done. So, something which has not from work undone, he does not gain anything. Naivatasya kritena arthaha. He has no objective, he has nothing to gain from either work done or work undone. You know, Jayabharata lived like that. Kritena arthaha kritena kaschana. Either by what he has done or by what he has not done, he does not gain anything. Nachasya sarvabhuteshu, second line. Nachasya sarvabhuteshu kaschidarthavyapashrayah. Arthavyapashrayah, dependent on any objective. Artha is objective, vyapashraya is dependent. Arthavyapashrayah means he is dependent on objective. Kaschiti, any. Na, he does not depend on any objective. He does not have to gain anything. That is the beauty there. Arthavyapashrayah, he is not dependent on any objective. Nachasya sarvabhuteshu, from any creature. Sarvabhuteshu, because there is no needful connection whatsoever with any object. Nacha asya sarvabhuteshu karthavyapashrayah. He does not have to get anything from any creature, human being or whatever. Totally dependent on himself. Himself means the self. He is a Brahmajnani. So that is why the previous sloka says, Tasya karyam na vidyate. He has nothing to be done. Remember, because it says Tasya karyam na vidyate, we cannot take shelter under this and say, I will not do anything, I am not going to follow any ritual, I am not going to do any discharge my obligation, because it says karyam na vidyate, I am atmaratihi, atmasantushtihi, atmatriptihi. This saying, the very statement, the statement with an egoistic statement, this won't work. You see? Naivatasya kritena arthaha na kritena eka kaschana nachasya sarvabhuteshu Kashchidartha Mundakopanishad makes it very clear. Actually, the words are taken from Mundakopanishad. It says, I am now quoting Mundakopanishad, Pariksha 1:2-12. The Mundakopanishad 1.2.12. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedamayan nastya krita kritena tadvijnanartham sagurumeva abhigaccheti. I will tell you that later. First look at the first half. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano. The Brahmin, the seeker of Brahman, Pariksha lokan karmachitan. Lokan, experiencing this entire world, carefully analyzing what is happening to all works and actions. Nirvedamayan nasti akrita kritena. Nasti akrita kritena. You have to write it as a logo in your diary or room or whatever. Nasti akrita kritena. Nasti akrita kritena. That is the crucial statement. What does it say? Nasti akritaha. Akritaha nasti. In this world, akritaha nasti. What is akritaha? Akritaha means the result, you see, which is not the result of karma. Akritaha. Which is not the result of action. There is nothing in this world which is not the result of action. Everything depends upon action. Everything is the result of some action. Think about it. You want to contend this statement? Nasti akritaha. There is nothing here that is not the result of karma. Akritaha means that which is not a product of action, a non-product. So, in this world, there is nothing which is not a product of action. But what we want is something which is beyond action. You see, so was Kritena Kim. Kritena Kim is understood. What is the need of performing karma? This is what that Mundakopanishad says. In writing the commentary on this, Shankara explains it beautifully. You see, I will read it in Sanskrit and I will get you the answer, but look at the elementary way in which Shankara explains it. I will read it in Sanskrit, I will also tell you the English. Iha samsare nasti kashchidapi akrita padartha. Iha samsare, in this universe, nothing ever, akrita padartha, which is not the result of action. Akrita padartha. Sarva eva hi loka karmachita. Everything is the result of some action. Karma kritatvat cha anitya. Because it is the result of action, karma kritatvat anitya, it is impermanent. Anything which is the result of some action has to be impermanent. You think about it. Na nityam kinchidasti ityabhiprayah. Meaning, in other words, na nityam kinchidasti. There is nothing which is permanent in this world. You will agree with this. Sarvam tu karma anityasaiva sadhanam. So all actions, sarvam karma, all actions, anityasaiva sadhanam is only a means. Sadhanam is a means. In this, all actions are only a means to something impermanent. So he is trying to establish that karma, you have to transcend karma and take jnana, that kind. He is now explaining, he gives the reason. So all the actions are only means to something impermanent, we have said. Yasmat, for, because, chaturvidhamevahi sarvam karma karyam. Look at the analysis here. That is the beauty, the tremendous incisive analysis. Chaturvidhamevahi sarvam karma karyam. All actions are only four kinds. What are the four kinds? Now you think about it, what are the four kinds? They are Utpadyam, Apyam, Vikaryam, Samskaryam. That is, they are either produced, all result of actions are either produced or acquired, you acquire it from somebody, or purified, already it is there, you purify it, or modified, already it is there, you modify it. That's all. Over and above these, action has no other distinction. You see? Na atah param karmanaha vishayaha asti. But what do I want? What does a seeker want? He wants ahamcha nityena amrutena abhayena kutasthena achalena dhruvena arthena arthi. I want something which is permanent, something which is immortal, something which is fearless, something which is unchanging, kutastha, something which is unaffected, something which is absolute, dhruvena. This is what I want. I do not want the opposite. Therefore, what is the use of karma? He says. That is how he analyzes this Mundakopanishad statement. So that is why Nasti akrita kritena, the formula of Mundakopanishad, which is what is being said here. Naivatasya kritena artha na kritene kakasyanam. In fact, after all the Gita done, war is over, later Arjuna asked Krishna, tell me Krishna, that day you said something. Of course I understood partly, but I have not fully understood what you said. You spoke so much on the battleground. Now why don't you tell me now? Krishna says, I am not getting this mood now. I cannot tell you, but still I will tell you something. And he starts, Uttara Gita. There is a Uttara Gita. I think it has got 119 slokas or something. And first chapter, 22nd sloka says, Jnanamritasya truptasya kritakrityasya yoginah nachasti kinchit kartavyam asti chenna cha tattvavite. One who has reached the enlightenment stage and satisfied in his own self, kritakrityasya yoginaha, for such a yogi there is nothing to be done, najasti kinchit kartavyam. If there is anything to be done, he is not a yogi, he is not a tattvaviti, he is not one who is enlightened. So that is the content of this 17 and 18. 17 and 18 therefore describe an enlightened person. From number 9, we started with yajna and karma. And that started from do your prescribed action, niyatang kuru karma. Agni carries the offerings to the divines. Therefore, everything is done Ishvara Aradhanartham. Of course, Aurobindo made a correction here, Chinmaya made a different interpretation. Slightly made the interpretation a secular type of interpretation. So all of them said yajna means selfless, dedicated action. So that starts with a traditional meaning in 3.10, Saha Yajna Praja Srishtva, but it develops through these slokas into a greater self-sacrifice. Brahman everywhere, which sees Brahman everywhere, which remains in Brahman and contented in Brahman, and therefore has nothing more to be done. That is why 17 and 18 are very important. We shall proceed now. Remember, there are two undercurrents in Bhagavad Gita. Undercurrents. It is the casual reader will not recognize it. The two undercurrents are, one is Prakriti. We are going to meet with it shortly. Right? Actionlessness. Maham karta attitude. Na aham karta attitude. This is actionlessness. This is the other. You see, Nahankarta attitude is the crucial thing in yajna. This is going to come in the 18th chapter. You will see that when you come there. That is Naishkarmyam as it is called. So, the seed for that Nahankarta attitude has been sown in these two shlokas, 17 and 18. Tasya karyam na vidyate. Naiva tasya kritena artha nakritena kashana. Anyway, we will keep it there. We will come back to that when we take up the Nahankarta at the right time. Go to the next shloka, number 19. Tasmad asaktas satatam karyam karma sabachara asakto ichyacharan karma paramapnoti purushaham. Tasmad. I have told you, when a shloka begins with Tasmad, Krishna is trying to summarize what he has been telling you earlier. So here he summarizes this whole idea. Right? That is from the Shloka 8, Niyatang Kuru Karmatvam, from that Yajnartha to what we started today. That along with the second chapter 47, Karmanyevadikaraste Shloka, Yogastat Kuru Karmani, you must do all your work being in yoga. All this is summarized in number 19. Tasmat asaktaha satatam karyam karma samachara. Karyam karma, prescribed action, samachara, do it efficiently, satatam, all the time, asaktaha, unattached. We know that. Asakto shyacharan karma paramapnoti purushaha. Asaktaha acharan karma. He who does actions, all actions. Asaktaha, being unattached, such a person, paramapnoti purushaha. He reaches the final destination. He reaches the absolute. Now, asakto shyacharan karma. How does the asakta, how does he do action with this thing? He is going to elaborate it in a very characteristic way in shloka number 25, which is going to come up in the next session. With that, we will stop today and we will continue in the next session from shloka number 20. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्याय्येन मार्गेण महीं महीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। ओम तत्सत्।